action of the drug and the person's external environment and their internal state. We talk a lot in psychedelic research and in psychedelic literature about set and setting, where set is the person's internal frame, their personality structure, which tends to be a trait variable, one that is long-lasting over time, and how they are now, or their state of being, those variables that tend to fluctuate hour to hour, day to day. And what's interesting to note is that in the psychedelic experience, what we see change is not only a person's state variables, but there's also potential to change the more longer lasting and harder to change traits. A person's set also consists of their previous experiences with psychedelic drugs and their current intention of use, what they want to get out of the psychedelic experience when they're going into it. The setting is the external frame. It includes the physical environment, the social or interpersonal milieu, the atmosphere or ambience that is set in the physical environment, and also the expectations of any other people who might be around. So you have the physiological effects of the drug, plus the set, plus the setting. That gives you the psychedelic experience. That experience can be divided into 5 main categories of effects. That of mood and affect, interpersonal behavior, sensory and perceptual effects, intellectual function and reality testing, and intuitive effects. First of all, talking about mood and affect, psychedelics cause a lability of affect and typically an increased intensity of emotions. A lot of users will describe a sense of well-being, anything from mild euphoria to very strong feelings of omnipotence. We also see an increase or decrease in the level of anxiety, which can coexist. An increase in anxiety can coexist with the feelings of euphoria and omnipotence. There's an increased concern with immediate events and sensations and a marked lack of concern for things in the future and past. I'm going to be switching back and forth between describing these categories and then describing what we've seen in our subjects thus far. All of our subjects here at the university, 4 of them thus far, have endorsed increased intensity of their emotions and have had states of euphoria at some point during their 4 sessions that they've had with us. The second realm is that of interpersonal behavior. Psychedelics cause increased sensitivity to interactions with others, which leads either to their being very easily hurt, feeling neglected or rejected, and or they feel an enhanced connection to the people around them. Thus, the term empathogenic is sometimes used to describe these compounds. And all of our subjects, again, endorsed at some point in time a sense of closeness, not only to the sitters who were sitting in the room with them, but also immediately after the experience when they went to our inpatient ward. They had a sense of closeness, a sense of empathy with staff, nurses, and other patients on the ward. Now, the sensory and perceptual effects are those that a big deal is made of for many people. Psychedelics cause an increased sensitivity to existing sensory stimuli. They cause illusions and hallucinations and other perceptual distortions. One of the most remarkable type of perceptual distortion is that of synesthesias, which is crossover of sensory modalities. So psychedelics cause people to taste music or to hear colors or see music, taste colors. And there's also a profound change in one's sense of time. Time seems to stop, seems to go backwards, seems to speed forward. Time takes on a very dreamlike quality when one is in the psychedelic experience. And also the overall framework of the world becomes very fluid and maybe even at sometimes unstable, and startlingly so. So our subjects, of course, had no lack of quotes about the sensory and perceptual effects that they were experiencing. One subject endorsed waves of circular light. One person described the room as turning light blue, yellow, and green. almost all the subjects described the music that we have in the room as intense yet relaxing. One subject talked about light tingling all over her body. One guy described what I guess were synesthesias by saying that the visuals that he was having were stimulated by the music and the note changes. And the same guy described purples, greens, every color, lots of color. He saw Ganesha laughing, saw faces, skulls, and neon floating patterns. So he was obviously having several distortions and illusions and hallucinations all at once. Francisco is signaling to me to remind, I'm going to talk about the methods of our own research later on, but in talking about this, I want to remind or to tell everybody that during the experience, people are wearing eye shades. They're wearing eye shades that have headphones built into them, so external sensory stimuli are blocked off. So all of these changes that people were describing were coming from, were originating internally. The next realm of changes that we see is in the realm of intellectual function and reality testing. Commonly what is seen as a lability of thought form, which is often interpreted as either associational disturbances or as intuitive leaps. During the peak of the experience, some disorganization of thought content or memories can happen, and the psychedelic experience tends to cause altered interpretation of concepts and of complex experiences. All of our subjects described unreal experiences, but all of them were able to remind themselves and were able to remember that they were under the effects of a drug when they were undergoing these experiences. And finally, talk about intuitive effects, which are relatively frequent and very highly valued by users. Intuitive effects include feelings of oneness with the earth, with other people, with the universe, a feeling of, or a sense of having a deeper understanding of life and one's history and one's experiences. This realm covers mystical and religious and transcendental experiences, and also philosophical thinking. You know, questions like, why are we here? What's it all about? These typically come up in the midst of trips. One subject described psilocybin as a great teacher. He said that he was shown that some things in his life are extraneous and unnecessary. He referred to the compulsions that he was having as part of his obsessive compulsive disorder, but also saw bad habits like smoking and junk food as just extraneous and unneeded and perhaps even harmful to his state of well-being. I'm not going to read this quote aloud because we actually have a videotape of the subject who talked about seeing Jesus, and I'm going to show that to you at the end of this talk. Dr. Comment?
In the last slide, you were describing this as kind of almost like meditation. Was there any control in the study, taking subjects, not giving them the substance, just giving them the eye shades, the music, etc., and seeing what would happen with them?
We don't have a control group per se built into the study. We do have active placebo built into the study. The subjects receive 4 doses, one of which is a very tiny dose of psilocybin meant only to stimulate some physical reactions, but not to stimulate an actual psychedelic experience. And we can talk a little bit more about that later.